So example 3 is finding rates from a graph. The graph shows the speed of a subway car. Find the speed in miles per minute. Compare the speed to the speed of the subway car in example 1. So step 1. You're going to choose and interpret a point on the line. So you're going to choose a point on the line. We're going to use one that's been helpfully identified as to what it was. So the point, we're going to choose this point. And so it is, you go for 1/2 minute, you go 1/4 mile. And that's what that dot means. And you have to read the actual graph to understand what's going on. So the point 1, so the point 1/2, 1/4, that is 1/4, means the subway car travels 1/4 mile in 1/2 minute. So step 2, we're going to actually find the speed. So step 2, find the speed. So this is the distance divided by the time. So we already said that the distance was 1/4 mile and the time was 1/2 minute. So that looks really weird. You've got a quarter divided by a half. And I think if I do this, you guys will be slightly happier. So 1/4 divided by 1/2, which is equal to, we're going to keep it, we're going to change it to multiplication, and we're going to flip it. And we end up with 2 divided by 4, which is really just 1/2. So your speed is 1/2 mile per minute. So you can go 1/2 mile in 1 minute. So the on your own says use the point 3 and 1/2 to find the speed of the subway cars. Does your answer change? Why? Before you figure out what the speed is, think about whether or not the answer will change. And then tell me, then go and solve it, and then try to think about why that's true. So pause me and come back. So welcome back. So it actually, if we think about it and we look at this line, it's nice and straight. There's no wobblies, there's no weird things. The line doesn't go up and then go down, it goes straight. So I'm kind of thinking that actually the speed is going to be constant. So let's see if that's true. So I'm going to say we have 1 and 1/2 divided by 3, because it is the distance, which is 1 and 1/2, and the time, which is 3. So again, I'm going to convert this to 3/2 divided by 3, which I'm going to keep it, change it, and flip it. And I get 3/6, which is 1/2 miles per minute. And interestingly enough, it did not change. It is the same. And again, it's because this line is straight. Okay, on to our last problem, which is solving a ratio problem. So there are 2 different ways of solving this problem. You can use the table, or you can use a fraction. So we're going to start with thinking about what this table really means. Remember in the previous problem I said the change from one to the next in the table didn't have to be the same, but it had to be the same from, think of this on its side compared to the ratio tables you saw. This is actually an up and down one, but the change as you grow is the same, but not from one box to the next. I hope that kind of makes sense. So you mix 1/2 cup of yellow paint for every 3/4 cup of blue paint to make 15 cups of green paint. How much yellow paint and blue paint do you use? So how do we figure out how much paint we need to use? Because this is in fractions, it's not an easy way to think of. And if I added 1/2 to 3/4, I wouldn't get 15 cups. So it's a ratio. For every 1/2 cup of yellow, I use 3/4 cups of blue, but I want 15 cups of green paint altogether. So in the first method, you can draw this table out. I'm going to say 1/2 cup to 3/4 cups, and my total cups is 5/4, so 1 1/4 cup. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is try to make these this into whole numbers. So I could multiply this by 2, and I'd end up with 1 cup of yellow paint, but it wouldn't give me a whole number for blue. So I bumped it up to 4. So 1/2 times 4 is 2, and 4 times 3/4 is 3. If I have 2 cups of yellow paint and 3 cups of blue paint, I have 5 total cups. Well, really what I want is 15. So if I take the 5 cups and multiply that by 3, I end up with 15. Well, I have to multiply the number of blue cups then by 3. I get 9. The number of yellow cups by 3, and I get 6. And happily, it all works out that 6 cups of yellow paint plus 9 cups of blue paint gives me the 15. So that's the first way. You can use the table. But you have to kind of play around with how you're going to get from one, to get from where you start to where you want to be. The second method uses a little bit more fractions than I know you guys like to use, but it can be a little bit easier to understand once you understand the basic concept. You're not kind of playing around with tables and figuring out, well, if I multiply by this and then I multiply by that. So we're going to use a fraction of the green paint to the yellow paint. So we're going to start with yellow. I'm going to say that if I have 1/2 cup of yellow paint, so we're going to make a ratio of yellow to green paint. So I start off with 1/2 cup, and I know that my total cups is 1/2 cup plus 3/4 cup. So 1/2 of the yellow plus 3/4 cup of the blue, and I got that from the original problem. So this gives me 1/2 divided by, if I make that into 2/4, I end up with 5/4. Well, let's make this into a problem that makes sense. 1/2 divided by 5/4 is really 1/2. Keeping it, changing it, and flipping it, I end up with 2/5. So what we're seeing here is that there's a ratio between the yellow and the green, and that's 2/5. Now I can do the same thing for my blue. So I have 3/4 cups of blue paint per 5/4 of green, which we know from here is 5/4. So this is a ratio of blue paint to green paint. And this ends up being 3/4 divided by 5/4, which is keeping it, changing it, and flipping it. We end up with 3/5. So we know that the ratio of blue paint to green paint is 3/5. Now here's where, so what good is that? Well, think about what this really means. If we want to know how much yellow to green paint there are, it's a ratio of 2/5. So if I know that I want to get to 15 gallons, I can say of that 15 gallons, the ratio from yellow to green is 2/5, So 2/5 of that paint, that is multiplication, of that 15 gallons is yellow paint. So if I multiply it like this, I end up with 6 cups. I've been saying gallons the whole time, but 6 cups. Same thing down here. We know that we have of the green, the ratio between blue and green is 3 cups to 5 cups. So we can say that we have, in order to make green paint, it's 3/5 of that 15 cups, which would give us 9 cups. Oops, cups. And again, these numbers happily match up to there. It's kind of a complicated way to think about it, but it really does work because we're trying to figure out what the ratio is of the parts to the whole. We'll talk more about that later. But that's the other way you can think about this. I will see you in class. Thanks.